Everything you want is right here. We gon' give them what they came for. We gon' take it up from last year. Shoot 'em my shot, boy, I'm long range. Me and the team on the same thing. Stayed down, never switched up. Only thing changed was the game. I'm in the zone now. Nothing can change what we on now. When I pull up, know it's going down. Foot on the gas, ain't no slowing down. Aiming for greatness, no settling. Kick down the doors, they won't let me in. Taking no L's, yeah, I gotta win. Watch me kick down the doors, they won't let me in. Who running the game now? Foot on the gas, can slow down. No, my team, we holding it down. We know we running it now. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change.
This Cleveland Cavaliers team can fuck off. I mean, this is a rough watch. Listen, I don't mean to sound unappreciative of the victory. I'm glad they won. A win is a win, and anytime you can get that done, it's a good thing, at least on paper in the record books. But this was just an ugly watch, just a horrific watch. Welcome to another edition of the Cavalier podcast. It's your boy, Mac. And tonight, obviously, our Cleveland Cavaliers took on the lowly Washington Wizards in D.C. And tonight's game did not go according to plan at all. Listen, this stretch of games that is being kicked off by this Washington game really was envisioned as somewhat of a palate cleanser for this Cleveland team that has struggled out of the gate. Through the first 25 games of the season prior to tonight's action, the Cavaliers entered with a 14-11 record. Nowhere near the expectations that they had. Now, there's different reasons that they arrived at that record through 25 games. I'm not going to beat a dead horse here and refer to them, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Either way, this 6-game stretch prior to the December 25th game, the Christmas game against the New York Knicks on national television, it comes against all these different teams that are under 500, including this Washington Wizards team that is absolutely just terrible, right? At least from a matchup and talent standpoint, the Cavaliers have more than enough to get the job done. And obviously, you never want to take your opponent unserious. You always want to go out there and understand that there are pros on the other side. And I say this all the time, right? I don't take these for granted, but at the same time, this is like, what the fuck are we doing here? They're obviously getting good looks at times during the first quarter, and I was honestly pretty impressed with how they managed to get some of those. I thought that it was a little bit well balanced, right? You got things going early on from everyone from DeAndre Hunter and Evan Mobley and Donovan Mitchell. And one of the things that really was nice to see was them getting into the action on the interior, right? It resulted in a good deal of fouls being drawn inside the 3-point line. A good amount of free throw attempts were also happening because of that. And I think that you saw multiple Cavaliers try to invite that contact around the rim, which we saw numerous Cavaliers get to the line in the first frame, whether it be Hunter, Jalen Tyson, Evan Mobley, and the list kind of went on. And believe it or not, I did think that they got some good looks from range, but I got to tell you, man, I am at the point right now where the results have to start coming in. I think the process, for what it's worth, has actually been decent on, when you watch the film, it doesn't always look pretty. It doesn't. But the Cavaliers, they are getting good looks. They're honestly getting good looks. I did a Cavs Q&A earlier, and one of the things that I kind of had to take a look at was how their shots were being created and the quality of those. And I think that you see this year entering tonight's game, they were 5th in shot quality. And, it just actually, they're 7th as a team in shot quality this year, 10th in shot selection, and 17th in shot making entering tonight's game. The process has been okay. The looks that they've gotten have been okay, though they've been over-reliant on how they've arrived at them. I thought tonight they spammed way too many threes instead of trying to attack Washington on the interior, which is something that continues to piss me off, because when you have somebody like Evan Mobley, who's quite often a mismatch for most fives out there, and I know fucking Marvin Bagley, right, finished with a double-double tonight against Cleveland, starting at center for the Washington Wizards. 15 points, 14 rebounds, 4 assists for Marvin Bagley tonight, who had a pretty damn good game, was aggressive out there, hit some big-time shots, and just did not let up on Cleveland. Evan Mobley on the other end. This was a pretty damn good game for Evan, too. 23 points, 13 boards, so double-double for him, 6 more assists. This is an area where Evan continues to grow as a facilitator, making some timely passes out there. And I've loved what I've seen from him as of late. But when they start to spam these threes, right? Donovan Mitchell took 15 threes tonight. I have nothing bad to say about Donovan Mitchell tonight. Let me get that out of the way. 48 points. You do not win this game without Donovan Mitchell doing what he does. You do not win this game without some of the late game heroics by Lonzo Ball. I'll talk about him in just a minute. You don't win this game without some of these key contributors making shots and making plays on the defensive end at certain times. But I have nothing bad to say about Donovan, though. He's 15 attempts from range. That's a lot, man. DeAndre Hunter took 10 threes. Darius Garland, we're going to spend some time talking about him too. He took 11 threes, did not hit any of them. As a unit, the Cavaliers attempted 53 fucking threes. I don't know about you guys, but I'm tired of the Cavaliers taking so many triples. I just don't understand why we have this over-reliance on the three-point shot. And again, not every game is created equally. I understand that different things against different opponents will work. Sometimes you can really antagonize a defense on the interior and get things going in that painted area or from the mid-range. Other times, you'll be able to beat teams from the perimeter. Sometimes they'll be slow to rotate. Maybe they won't have guys closing out when they need to, and maybe some of these shots will start falling. But 53 attempts just seems just a lot. Just seems excessive. They knocked down 15 of those. That's good for 28.3% to Washington. And Washington shot very, very well from three-point distance tonight, at least in the early going. They were 16 of 44 tonight as a team. That's 36.4%. So they outdid Cleveland there. Nothing exceptional, but it felt like they were getting some buckets at some right times. And at the forefront of that was C.J. McCollum. C.J. was at the point of making me want to rip my hair out. Bub Carrington was also knocking down some very, very timely buckets out there from the three-point line. And I was about ready to scream at the television when I saw that this Washington team was able to have its way with Cleveland early on. And here's the thing that really, really throws me off, right? The Cavaliers pulled down 15 offensive rebounds tonight. They got a ton of second chance opportunities. They scored 21 second chance points tonight to Washington's 10. And quite honestly, if they did not pull down all those offensive rebounds and didn't generate those second possessions and those extra possessions, they probably lose this game. They lose this game if they don't actively attack on the glass. And one of the things that was good to see was that they actually pulled down the long rebounds. I don't know if anybody knows that tonight, but something that they did very, very well was pull down those long rebounds. And that's something that has been ailing this team all season long. And I know that a lot of that is just rooted in positioning and effort, but I'll tell you what, there's no reason why we should be looking at our TVs in the fourth quarter of a game against the Washington fucking Wizards and be scared that they're going to lose. And that is no disrespect to Wizards fans out there or that may or may not be watching this, but come on. Obviously, Cleveland has not gotten off to the start that we all wanted them to this season, but this was a way in which this is a way in which Cleveland was able to potentially kick off a run. And they still have that opportunity, right? They got the job done, but man, was it ugly. It was ugly. I suppose I should sit up here and say, hey, they won. I should feel good about that. But quite honestly, I don't feel good about the way that this game went. I'm just at a point right now where I'm just tired of watching them chuck these shots up. Darius Garland, 0 of 11 from three-point distance tonight. Listen, I'm trying to have patience with Darius Garland. I think he, of anybody else on this roster, if you're going to be pissed off about some of the performances that we've seen this season from the Cavaliers individually, Darius Garland dealing with his injury and clearly not being right, I'm trying to have a good amount of patience with Darius, and that is not going to change anytime soon. I think that at this point in time, you see what he has been able to do this season, though, from the perimeter, and you just wonder to yourself, is this going to be the norm, at least for this season? Because as I see Cavs down here talking about how bad shooting nights are going to happen, can I interest you in the fact that he's shooting 32.1% from range and 35.3% from the field? Listen, this is not a bad shooting night that you can just throw away. This is legitimately what he has been like through 10 games this season. And that percentage that I just gave you, 32.1%, that's not including tonight where he went 0 of 11 from 3-point distance. Yes, he was able to supplement that with his dribble penetration, getting to the rim and getting to the line. But at the same time, you need Garland to get back to knocking down shots from the perimeter, or you're going to continue to have games like this. And obviously, you can get away with it against the Washington Wizards of all teams, but you're not going to continue to be able to get away with that. Darius Garland has my belief. I'm not switching it up on Darius like a lot of people have. I mean, you go to social media, people are losing their shit over Darius Garland's start to this season. And he has only appeared in 10 games this year, and people are ready to ship his ass off to Siberia for the start that he has had after he just led a historic offense last year and was a near all NBA level player, almost 50, 40, 90. Why the fuck would I switch up on Darius Garland when I know that when he is healthy, he can be a big time contributor? I try and call it 100, right? I try and go out there and be a little bit objective relative to what people believe that I do. But I mean, it would just make little sense for me to give up on Darius when I've seen him function hotly. Also, to cap off that point, 26.6% from 3-point distance after tonight's game. It's not just a bad shooting night. It's a bad shooting season so far through 10 games for Darius. Am I ultimately worried that he can't get back to what he was last year? No, but I'll be lying to you if I said that I wasn't at least a little bit concerned with that toe and how much it's sapping him of his style of play. He's very quick twitch. He's somebody that can beat you off the dribble and get to the rim, and he's still doing that, but he looks like he's laboring at points right now. And I think people misconstrue that as Darius just not caring. No, the dude is working through the injury right now, so I'm trying to have patience with him. But nights when he goes like this, 0 of 11 from 3-point distance, they certainly probably don't make people feel any better when they look at the stat sheet. Now, he supplemented that with his dribble penetration and being able to get to the line. He was 6 of 7 from the charity stripe tonight. He was 6 of 17 from the field. So if you take away those 11 attempts from his overall field goals, right, he was, what is that? 6 of, and I'm terrible at math. You guys know this. Did he make all of them? Yeah, I think he made all of his drives that actually were inside the 3-point line. 6 of 17. You take away 11, you got 6. I don't know. You guys know I'm fucking terrible at math, but I think he managed to make all the shot attempts that he had going towards the rim, which is a good sight to see. Either way, I still am a big believer in Darius, but it was not a pretty sight overall. All I'm going to say, though, about Darius is if you're ready to ship him out, stay on that side. Stay on that side. Don't switch up. Lonzo Ball. Listen, there was a sequence tonight where y'all know what I'm about to say. There was a sequence tonight in which Lonzo blew a perfectly makeable layup attempt out in transition after a turnover on the Wizards' part. Another thing that they did a lot tonight. Right? They turned the ball over a shit ton of times, which obviously helped Cleveland out. Cleveland didn't help themselves out as they turned the ball over 7 times, which resulted in 13 points off of turnovers for Washington. But they turned the ball over 16 times for DC, right? 26 points off of turnovers, Cleveland was able to turn that into, and that's good. The defense, the transition, the transition offense off of those turnovers, that was great. It was great to see them attack and on the defensive end to take some of those risks. And you saw some of that tonight from Lonzo, who made a couple of key plays. And offensively speaking, I think this is where he draws the ire of a lot of people. It's the shot selection. There are times where Lonzo, the ball swings his way, and it may not be in rhythm, but he'll still pull the trigger. It'll either be a pull up or a step back or something that just does not make sense for him. But I'm trying to live with it because the efficiency is just abysmal right now. He was 1 of 6 from the field, including 1 of 5 from deep tonight. But the 1 3 that he made, that was a critical one. If you don't give him credit for anything else he did tonight, at least give him credits for that triple that led to a good sequence for the Cavaliers. And mind you, plus minus is not always going to tell you the whole story. Plus minus is not always going to tell you what you think you saw on the court. But Lonzo was a plus 26 tonight. That is a game high for this one. Anybody on Washington, anybody on Cleveland, he was a game high plus 26. 5 points tonight, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, and a pretty crucial triple. So when I talk about how Lonzo makes winning plays, when I talk about how Lonzo is a winning player, and I think that I can forgive some of the inefficiency, that's what I'm talking about. And Nate, I'm going to call you out here. I'm going to pick on you a little bit. The metric system. No, I'm not using the metric system. I think that at this point in time, I just want to see Lonzo knock down those threes. But even when he's not doing that, he's clearly making winning plays. The efficiency, in my opinion, will come and go for Lonzo. He will have games, believe it or not. And, oh, sorry about that. He said I wasn't talking about you, Mac. All right, I can see. Either way, he goes in and he knocks down this triple that is a pretty crucial play. He's making plays on the defensive end. Obviously, you saw that a couple of different times tonight. And it's stuff like that. It is stuff like that that can impact winning. And I think coaches sense that. I think there was a point tonight in which Kenny Atkinson actually pulled Darius Garland, clearly struggling from the three-point line, in place and put Lonzo in there and kind of trusted him to close things out. And I think that's a pretty important thing to point out. I want to say that people don't really know or understand sometimes what winning players look like if they aren't knocking down shots. And because that's a portion of what you have to do to contribute offensively. We've had this conversation with Isaac Okoro over the years and his impact on losing or winning or not making sure that he is enough of a three-point spacer to draw gravity, things of that nature. So trust me, I understand people being pissed off about the percentages. And honestly, when you're talking about Isaac Okoro, that's a player that consistently elevated his three-point percentage, but the volume was too low for people to believe that it was something that actually made a dent or a difference on the defensive side. By the way, Isaac's actually shooting 38.3% from three-point distance this season. And he is doing so on roughly 3.1 attempts, which obviously I think the team would love for Lonzo to be doing that. But even when Lonzo is not doing that, he is still making some of those plays out there that actually contribute to winning. And I think you saw that in the stretch of this game. Now, on the season as a whole, I think that, he is not somebody that is going to wow you from a statistical standpoint. You're just going to have to watch the film and see what it brings to you. On this season as a whole, Lonzo is averaging 5.4 points, 4.8 assists, and 4.5 rebounds. Lonzo does go after it on the glass. If that's one area that we want to give him some real love in, the glass is something that he does contribute on. The defensive end, he is quite opportunistic. He isn't quite what he once was in terms of on-ball perimeter isolation defense, but he does take some risks out there and have resulted in some pretty big steals. 1.3 per game steals totals that Lonzo has been able to put up. On this season as a whole, Lonzo is shooting just 28.6%. Hate to say that, He's shooting 26.3% from three-point distance. As you are probably well aware of, the overwhelming majority of Lonzo's shot attempts come from the three-point line because he's not a driver of the basketball. It's not somebody that's going to put pressure on a defense. He's not somebody that's going to put the ball on the floor and go out there and just drive and try and draw fouls and initiate contact. That's not really who Lonzo is anymore. And he hasn't been that guy in a pretty long time. I don't know what else to say in regards to that. And as some of the comments down here suggest, not J475 or F8Y says not a driver even in a fast break. Yeah, I mean, listen, he smoked that layup. That was ugly. Even as somebody that's a fan of Lonzo Ball, that was ugly to see. But I mean, he made up for it, I think, at the right time. And I think that's what has to happen. If you're going to be shitty and have plays that have the fan base making fun of you, come back and make up for it later on in the game. And I think Lonzo managed to do that. And so I'm going to continue to have patience for Lonzo. I'm going to continue to have patience for Darius Garland. But I'll tell you what, I was pretty impressed with another Cavalier guard tonight, not named Lonzo Ball, Donovan Mitchell, or Darius Garland. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was Craig Porter Jr. I honestly, I wrote an article a couple of days ago about how impactful Craig Porter Jr. has been and how much he deserves a larger role in this offense. He only played 10 minutes tonight, 10 minutes, 48 seconds. He was 2 of 2 from the field, so he scored 4 points. He pulled down 5 rebounds, including 4 of the offensive right. This is a fucking guard pulling down 4 offensive rebounds out there. Dished out 4 assists, 2 steals. Craig makes shit happen, man. Craig is one of those dudes that will go out there and just make shit happen. And I think that that is a beautiful thing for a Cavaliers team that is having struggles from its other guards and Darius coming off the injury and Lonzo Ball, who can't get his efficiency in order. Really, both of those guys. But Craig, he'll come in, make some heady plays. I think one of them was when Washington was trying to inbound the basketball. Carlito, as we love to call him, kind of mucked that up and they turned the ball over. And that's the type of shit that leads to winning. We talk about winning plays. This is a guy who makes winning plays and he's efficient when he's doing it. Right. So that was a really, really good performance in such a small amount of time for Craig. And I think that when you got Donovan, when you got Darius, when you got Lonzo, when you got Craig, the minutes distribution for the bench guys is going to be all over the place. But when Lonzo struggles or when he's shot chucking and you need to replace his minutes with Craig's, by all means, take the opportunity from the young talent who's probably going to end up taking the backup point guard role in the next year. If they don't end up re-signing Lonzo or not re-signing, if they don't end up taking his team option, because to those of you unaware, Lonzo actually has a team option for the 2026-27 season. So if they don't want to move on from him outright at their current cost, they can actually keep him in-house for another season. That does not bode well for Craig Porter Jr. in terms of rotational minutes, but they might opt to go the Craig route if Lonzo continues to struggle from an efficiency standpoint, or if he gets hurt or something like that. But I've been very impressed with what we've seen from Craig. This dude just makes some very, very big plays when you need them. And that's the thing. Like, they're always timely. It always comes in a moment of need with Craig. And I think that is something else that you could point to in terms of impact out there. So I love what I've seen from Craig. Conversely, I'm talking about the young guys, and this is not such a young guy anymore, just turned 25 over this break that we had. Naquan Tomlin, this was not a good game, especially from a defensive standpoint for our guy, Naquan Tomlin. He fouled out tonight. I think it was his first career time fouling out. And I mean, obviously doesn't have a lot of experience. It's not really a huge deal, right? But in 10 minutes of action tonight, he committed 6 fouls, a lot of them coming in succession, which was not pretty, right? He pulled down 3 rebounds, dished out an assist, was -3. did not knock down any attempts from the field. It was an ugly performance from Naquan, but for a guy who's had a pretty big impact in his appearances this year, I can forgive that. Just not a not a good game for Naquan, and it'll happen. But as Freddie Black says down here, Tomlin got his money's worth. Yeah, if you're gonna foul out there, commit some hard fouls or commit some that the defense is gonna feel in the morning. But I'm not down on it. I'm not down on it. And I hope he's not either. That's gonna happen. It will happen. So Tomlin, keep your head up. Everybody fouls out at some point or another. It is just something, especially with the way that he plays defense. It's so aggressive, and he's a little bit too handsy out there. And I think that Jalen Tyson suffers from the same affliction at times in terms of being a little bit too handsy on the defensive end. But hey, he got his money's worth. That's all you can ask for. That is all you can ask for. So I'll live with that. Outside of some of the names that were mentioned, there's really not much else to take away from this game. I thought Tyson continues to be somebody that will draw gravity out to the three-point line, although he made just one of his 3 attempts tonight. I think his catch and shoot ability continues to be something that is going to only continue to improve. We continuously have talked about the development of this guy, especially as a shooter and being somebody that will confidently knock down and take that shot. And that didn't change tonight. On his way to 13 points, 6 boards, so he was active again on the glass, and 3 assists, 3 of 5 from the field, 1 of 3 from three-point distance. Jalen Tyson is somebody that I don't know. I've said this ad nauseum this year. I feel like I'm just repeating myself and sounding like a broken record, but it's true. His breakout has really, really, really impressed me. And I think that we all saw him contributing at a much higher level this year than he did last year, not really being involved in the rotation consistently. But I don't think anybody saw him taking the type of trajectory upward that he has so far this season. And that's a good thing, because Cleveland is going to have some decisions to make with some of the contracts on the roster in the next year or two, right? You're going to have to figure out what you want to do with DeAndre Hunter this offseason. You're going to have to figure out what you want to do with Max Strus moving forward. You're going to have to figure out what you want to do in terms of some of the other guys, right, that are on expiring deals right now, whether that be Dean Wade, Craig Porter Jr. They do have, I think, a team option on him right now, or there is an option in calls in his contract right now. But I think that they have some things from a contractual standpoint that will be decided from players just panning out the way that they thought they would. Tomlin turning into a rotational caliber piece, that's a decision that they'll have to make on Dean Wade, right? And whether or not you extend him or move him around the deadline or let him walk. They'll have to make a decision eventually, like I mentioned, on Max Strus, on whether or not we can use his salary to bring in another piece that they feel might actually address one of their needs right now. There's a couple of questions, like Lonzo Ball, like I mentioned, he has a team option for this upcoming 2026-27 season. There are some decisions to be made, and if guys like Craig Porter Jr. and Jalen Tyson and Naquan Tomlin pop off, maybe that makes some of the veterans expendable. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because you can keep like cheap talent on the roster juxtaposed to guys with a little bit more, I wouldn't say bloated contracts, but contracts that you're not getting your bang for your buck for all the time. But it was nice to see some of the contributions yet again from the younger guys, whether that be Tyson. And I see the comment down here from Cavs Muse that says -10. I think that's in reference to Jalen Tyson. Listen, Donovan Mitchell was +9 tonight. Lonzo Ball was +26. What did I say when I referenced Lonzo's 26, right? The plus minus is not always indicative of the game. If you're watching the game, you'll understand that. You have to take it with a grain of salt. Was Lonzo Ball better than Donovan Mitchell tonight based on that? No. But he made plays when it counted, and that metric is a broken or flawed metric at times. So you have to let your eyes do a lot of the work. That number counts, but it only takes you so far. It's like any other statistic out there. You have to combine the two. So I don't know if you're trolling. I hope you are, but hopefully you're understanding that plus minus is not something that you have to really necessarily live or die by. And I think at this point in time, hopefully you understand that. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't know. Either way, I think that if you watch this game tonight, you'll see where some of the key plays were made by some of these guys. All I know is that right now, I think that the Cavaliers have to continue to work through whatever slog. Not even I know they have to figure this shit out. Stop being so reliant on the perimeter shot. I understand that by virtue of you having some pretty damn good shooters on your roster, you're going to throw that shot up a lot. I understand that that you want to go out there and try and get guys in the rhythm, right? Darius Garland has struggled to start this season, and you want to get him comfortable and confident in taking that shot. So he's going to take a bunch of them. He was 0-11 from the field tonight. I think that you want Lonzo not taking, you don't want him like shot chucking and taking 6-7 attempts a game, but you want him comfortable enough to pull the trigger. You don't want to put him in a space where he's like Isaac Okoro or Dean Wade at times, and he's just not going to pull the trigger when it swings his way, when he has an opening, because he is scared that he's going to get pulled. You want him to be confident enough to take that shot. It's a gift and a curse. And for Lonzo, it's been more curse than a gift. But I still have faith in these guys being able to figure it out. That said, let's hop into the chat a little bit further here. Cavs Muse also says, the point I'm trying to make is the plus minus stat doesn't tell the whole story. I was trolling you because you bring it up all the time. You know what? You're right. I do bring it up all the time. But what else do? I paint a picture of what is actually going out on the court. And I feel like I consistently do that as well. It goes hand in hand. I don't just throw empty numbers out there. And I think you know that too, Cavs Muse. So pipe down. Floyd Phillips II says, team doesn't show up to play hard from the jump. Coach is responsible for having guys ready. I think that is perfectly fine to say. But I also think that there's only so much that a coach can do. I got a lot of comments tonight, or I read a lot of comments tonight on social media on one of my posts that said, when people were replying that they needed, if they lost this game, that they needed to fire Kenny Atkinson tonight, like they did with David Blatt back during the 2014-15 season. And I was legitimately thinking to myself, was it, I think I'm blanking. Was it 2015-16? I think it was. I don't know. Either way, you guys know what I'm trying to say. This stuff all kind of runs together for me at times, but you remember when David Blatt was fired for Tyronn Lue, who was already on the bench. You don't have an option like that on your bench. Johnny Bryant is not the guy. Listen, and that's not me trying to be disrespectful towards Johnny. That's just me saying that if I'm going to, in a season where the Cavaliers are a championship hopeful, at least entering the season, where they believe that they have a shot at the title in the Eastern Conference at the very least, because OKC is just looking like they're heading for a repeat. I don't think that if you're trying to compete for a championship, your options should be to fire Kenny Atkinson at any point during the regular season, unless the Cavaliers fail to make the playoffs, because there's nothing that he can do that we haven't already seen during the regular season that we haven't already seen in the years past. We've seen them win 60 plus games now. We've seen them get top 4 seeds time in and time out. They're not going to fire him for a bad loss in December. So that's a comical statement for people to make and replace him with who, obviously. I think that begs the question, if you're going to fire Kenny Atkinson, who do you want replacing him? And I think people just say shit like that all the time. And sometimes it gets under my skin because I'm like, are you fucking thinking about what you're saying? I don't know. All I know is, while tonight, if they would end up in a loss, yes, it would have been unacceptable, but to fire him would be just absolutely stupid. And I do think that the coach, to Floyd's point, is responsible somewhat for having his guys ready, especially after somewhat of a layoff, right? He had this long-ass layoff for the Cavaliers. It felt like they hadn't played in 1,000 days. You want to see them come out with a little bit more effort and energy out there. And maybe maybe we're looking too a little bit too deep into that, as I don't know if the effort so much was the issue tonight as the efficiency, because they got some good looks tonight. They just didn't knock them down. Just didn't knock them down. Either way, things have to change. Things have to change. Ian 7064 says clearly the tough film session they had fell on deaf ears. And I honestly think that that's a tough thing to say right now, because I think that the efficiency, like I said, like if you take 50 plus threes and you're only knocking down, well, they knocked down 15 tonight. Is that what I mentioned? Yeah, they were 15 of 53 tonight. That's 28.3%. Multiple players missing multiple shots out there. Obviously, Lonzo missed more than his fair share. Darius missed all of his. DeAndre was 3 of 10. I mean, at some point, it does come back to the efficiency. And guys, if you're getting open looks, you have to be able to, knock your shots down at a point in time. I think I pulled that stat for you guys earlier in terms of shot quality. This year, right, as a whole, they are 7th in shot quality entering tonight. They were 10th in shot creation and then 17th in actual shot making. So the process has seemed good, at least from a statistical standpoint. But I think that when they start knocking these shots down, they're going to look like a much better team. And some of these conversations about effort or whether or not these guys care or how hard they're trying it would matter. But I think that tonight was much more about efficiency and just bad shot making than it was effort. Because I legitimately think that there were times tonight where they were giving it their all. Like, you can't sit here and tell me that Darius wasn't trying to get his shot falling. He wasn't interested in doing that. You can't sit here and tell me that they weren't trying on the glass, because they did, especially on the offensive glass. The effort was there, and I think that you get to a point with this team where, okay, or just make some fucking shots. Just make some shots. I don't know. I just am at a point with this team right now where that's what I want to see from them. And hopefully that changes. Hopefully the Cavaliers from a defensive standpoint can kind of lock in a little bit more, especially out on the wing, because there were some attempts that Washington got tonight. They were like, wow, like, you didn't rotate at all. You didn't close out quickly enough. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. And I think that starts with perimeter wing defenders. I think you need more from Dean Wade. I think that you need Lonzo to step up a little bit more in that area. I think Darius and Donovan need to be better. It's really just a collective team effort. But I think that defense wasn't so much a concern tonight to me as the horrific shot making and the selection at times. I don't know, man. I think I was just ready to call it a night entering that fourth quarter, because I just did not believe they had it in them to complete this. And I think a lot of that was just simply watching the first couple of quarters and watching them just not being able to knock down any shots. And then lo and behold, you get Donovan Mitchell going just going hero ball mode out there. And it worked. You got some timely shots from a couple of different guys and timely sequences from a couple of different guys. Lonzo kind of at the forefront of that, which is probably why he finished with the plus 26. But this is not a win that I felt like they deserved. And I said this on Twitter, and I'm going to repeat this here because I think it's relevant. The Cavaliers did not deserve to win tonight's game. I'm glad that they did ultimately, obviously, but they just didn't. If you were to look at the box score of this game, you might think, hey, you know what? It was a tight game. But honestly, that's just not how I saw it. I'm glad they won it. I just didn't feel like they deserved it. I'm always happy for victory. I think that this stretch of games is like perfectly sewn together for them to string together their first real win streak. But I don't know, man. If they're struggling against Washington after, what was it? We were off for 6 days, I think. I don't know how much better it's going to be against Chicago and Charlotte and New Orleans, right? Some of these other teams that you're going to face off over these next 6 games before you get to that primetime matchup with the Knicks. But here we are, and the Cavaliers will take on the Hornets on Sunday. That's an early start time too, 3:30. We'll, we'll have to see if they bring their A game in that one before heading to Chicago, and they get 3 days off. But I don't know. It's got to be better. It's got to be better than what it has been over these last couple of weeks and tonight, especially after the break. Just got to be better. You got to give a better performance. I don't know. No reason to beat a dead horse, though. As I always tell you guys, if you like to reach out, I can. It's Cavalier_pod over on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, whatever social media you will find me on. If you want to be added to the It's Cavalier Discord chat, you know what to do. Leave a rating, leave a review, send me a screenshot, set a review to itscavalier53@gmail.com, and I will send you said invite. If you're not a subscriber to the It's Cavalier podcast, do your boy a favor, subscribe and hit that like button as well. If you're watching over on X, jump over to YouTube right now, hype the video up, as that is a great way to get things cooking in the algorithm. And have a good night.